In this video, we dive into the movie The Revenant. We will discuss the storyline, provide a clear plot summary, and explore the cast and the character in detail. We will also take a closer look at the film's production journey, analyze its box office performance. Finally, we will share reviews and personal reaction to the movie. So let's get started. When we begin talking about the movie, we are not just discussing a movie; we are stepping into an experience. This is the kind of the film that demand patience, attention, and emotional endurance. It belongs to the survival drama genre, but it goes far beyond the typical adventure story. It is raw, intense, and deeply immersive. At its core, the film is a survival epic. Survival films often focus on physical struggle, man versus nature, but here the genre is elevated into something almost spiritual. The freezing landscape, the silence of the wilderness, and the brutal unpredictability of nature are not just background elements. They become character themselves. The genre blends historical drama with psychological endurance, created a story that feels both intimate and epic at the same time. One of the main reasons this film is worth discussing is its director, Alejandro Gonzalez, known for pushing cinematic boundaries. Inarritu approaches storytelling with intensity and emotion. After discussing films like Birdman, he chose to take a completely different path with the Revenant. Instead of fast dialogue and theoretical energy, he embraced silence, long takes, and emotional silence. His direction forces us to sit with discomfort. He does not rush the suffering. He does not soften the environment. He makes us feel it, and that is where the production style becomes truly remarkable. The film was shot almost entirely using natural light, which is an incredibly risky choice in filmmaking. Cinematographers and Emil Lubisky crafted each frame to look like a movie painting. The snow-covered forest, the icy river, and the endless sky are captured with breathtaking realism. The decision to rely on natural lighting means feels scenes authentic and sometimes dim, sometimes rush, harsh, always real. There is no artificial glow, no dramatic studio polish. Instead, we see the world as it is, cold, unforgiving, and beautiful. Another aspect of the production that deserves attention is the commitment to the realism. The cast and the crew film in extremely cold environment to maintain authenticity. This was not a comfortable production. It mirrored the suffering portray on screen. That dedication translates into performance that feel physical rather than performative. When you watch Hugh Glass struggle to throw the snow, you do not feel like you are watching catching acting. You feel like you are witnessing the survival. The pacing of is also worth discussing. It is slow, deliberate, and almost meditative. Some viewers may find it challenging. However, this pacing is its intentional. It mirrors the exhaustion of the main character generally. Every breath feels heavy, every step feels painful. The film refuses to entertain in a conventional way. Instead, it immerses. Genre wise, while it is characterized as survival drama and historical adventure, it also carries elements of revenge strategy. Yet the revenge is not glorified, it feels burdensome. The wilderness strips everything down to basic human intent, survival, grief, anger, endurance. As a reviewers warming up the discussion, I would say this film is worth exploring, not because it is easy to watch, but because it is powerful to experience. Its challenge choices, its show or cinema can achieve an artistic ambition meets technical mastery. The film is a reminder that is not only about storytelling, it is about atmosphere, sensation, and emotion. It invites us into the cold, into the silence, and ask us one simple question: how far can a human being go to survive? The film had an estimated production budget of approximately $135 million. For a survival drama with a relatively simple narrative structure and limited central character, this figure is comparatively high. However, the cost becomes more understandable when examining the production strategy, environmental demand, and technical approach used to create the film. A significant portion of the budget was allocated to location based filming. Director Alejandro Gonzalez chose to shoot in remote natural environment rather than relying heavily on studio set. Principal photography took place in harsh winter landscape in Canada, later in Argentina when weather condition becomes inconsistent. Transporting cast, crew, and equipment to isolated wilderness area substantially increase logistical costs. Remote production require temporarily infrastructure such as camps, heating systems, specialized transportation, and safety measures, all of which contribute to higher expenses compared to the controlled studio filming. Weather unpredictability further impacted the financial structure. The production depended heavily on natural snowfall and specific environmental conditions. When weather patterns changed, the teams were forced to relocate or delay shooting. These interpretations extended the production timeline, increasing daily operating expenses such as crew wages, equipment rental, and insurance costs. Extending schedules are among the most common reasons film budget exceed initial projection. Another major resource allocation involves cinematography. The film was shot primarily using natural light under the guidance of cinematographer Emil Lubisky. This artistic decision limited filming window each day to short periods when lighting conditions were suitable. While this approach enhanced realism and visual authenticity, it reduced efficiency. Fewer shooting hours per day meant more days were required to complete scene, increasing labor and production costs. Additionally, specialized camera equipment was used to achieve long immersive tracking should require technical precision and rehearsal time. Although film is not dominated by large-scale digital spec, visual effects were still part of the budget allocation. The bear attack sequence, environmental enhancement, and certain safety elements require computer-generated imagery and post-production work. These costs, while lower than those of superhero blockbusters, still contributed meaningfully to the total expenditure. Above the line cost also influenced the overall budget. The casting of high profile actors such as Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hardy added to production expenses. Established actors command substantial salaries, particularly in leading roles. However, the relatively small core cast limited the scale of talent related spending compared to the ensemble driven production. And compared to the similar film within the survival and historical drama genre, the budget stand at the higher end but not unprecedented. For example, The Life of Pi had a reported budget of around $120 million, largely driven by visual effect and digital environment. The Martin reportedly cost approximately $108 million, benefited from a mix of studio production and controlled visual effect environment. In contrast, low budget survival dramas such as 127 are were produced for under $20 million due to the limited setting and smaller logistical demand. Unlike CGI heavy action film, the film directed its financial resource toward environmental realism and immersive production rather than spectrum. The higher cost reflects its commitment to authenticity, environmental dependence, and extended production schedule rather than large scale set construction of a or franchise level marketing integration. In neutral financial term, the $135 million budget represent a calculated risk. The investment supported a technically ambitious production style and high artistic standard. Considering its worldwide box office return of over $500 million and significant award recognition, the financial outcome suggests that the production costs were ultimately justified with the commercial and critical marketplace. The film belongs primarily to the survival drama genre, but it also blends elements of historical adventure, psychological endurance, and revenge tragedy. While many films in the survival category focus on action driven suspense or heroic triumph, this film approaches the genre with restraint and intensity. It is less about spectacle and more about experience. The genre here functions as a framework for exploring endurance, isolation, and the raw relationship between human being and nature. At its core, the film operates as a survival narrative. The story centers on physical resistance against overwhelming natural forces, freezing temperature, hungry, injury, and vast, unforgiving landscape. However, unlike conventional adventure films that balance hardship with moments of relief or optimism, this film sustains tension through prolonged suffering. Survival is not portrayed as thrilling, it is exhausting, painful, and uncertain. This choice shaped the film's overall mood. The atmosphere is one of cold realism. The wildness is presenting not as a romantic frontier but as an indifferent and often hostile environment. Snow covered forest, icy rivers, and endless grey skies dominate the visual landscape. The natural world feels immense compared to the vulnerability of the human character. Silence plays a major role in establishing this atmosphere. Dialogue is minimal and long stretches pass it with only the sound of wind, breath, and movement through snow. This quiet intensifies the sense of isolation and immersion. The pacing of the film is deliberate and slow scenes are allowed to unfold without rushing toward resolution. Long takes and extended sequence create a sense of real-time endurance. This pacing mirrors the protagonist's physical condition. Every step forward feel laborious. Rather than using rapid editing or fast action cuts to build excitement, the film relies on sustained tension. The viewer is encouraged to sit with discomfort rather than escape it. This stylistic choice can feel demanded, but it reinforces the thematic focus on endurance. Tone is another defining element. The tone remains serious, somber, and often bleak. This is little humor or emotional relief. The narrative is grounded in suffering, grief, and determination. Even moment of beauty such as sunlight filtering through trees carries a sense of fragility rather than comfort. The film does not romanticize revenge. Instead, it presents revenge as heavy and emotionally costly. This restrained tone prevents the story from becoming melodramatic. Director Alejandro Inarritu shaped the mood through immersive filmmaking technique. The camera often stays close to the character faces, capturing breath in freezing air and physical strain in detail. These intimate shots create emotional proximity, while wild landscape shots emphasize isolation. The contrast between closeness and vastness deepen the atmospheric tension. Cinematographer Enumiel Lubisky enhanced the mood through natural lighting and wide-angle composition. The use of natural light results in muted color tones, white, grays, blues, and earth colors dominate the screen. The limited color palette reinforces the cold, subdued emotional environment. The visual style avoids artificial brightness, supporting the film's grounded tone. Stylistically, the film combines realism with a moment of subtitle spirituality, dreamlike sequence, and memories appear occasionally, softening the harshness with brief emotional reflection. These moments do not disrupt the mood but add emotional depth, suggesting that survival is not only physical but also psychological. Overall, the genre of survival drama is elevated by the film's atmospheric intensity and deliberate pacing. The mood remains immersive, somber, and relentless from beginning to end. Through restraint on naturalistic style and patient storytelling, the film creates an experience that feels less like entertainment and more like endurance alongside its central character. Before audience watch the film, expectation was shaped by several powerful factors: the star power attached to the project, the reputation of its director, the survival genre framework, and early media coverage about the extreme production condition. These elements influence how different viewers' demographic approach the film and what they anticipated from the experience. From a demographic perspective, the primary expected audience consisted of adult viewers, particularly those aged 18 and above. The film historical setting, intense violence, and slow, deliberate pacing signal that it was not designed for family audience or casual teenage entertainment seekers. Instead, the film appeared targeted toward mature viewers who appreciate serious drama, artistic filmmaking, and character-driven storytelling. Fans of prestige cinema, often audience who follow season release, were especially attentive. The involvement of director Alejandro Inarritu raised expectation among cinephiles who were familiar with his early work. His reputation for ambitious and stylistically bold filmmaking suggested that this would not be a conventional adventure story. Another key demographic factor was the presence of Leonardo DiCaprio in the lead role. By the time of the release, DiCaprio was already regarded as one of Hollywood's most committed performers. However, he had not yet won an Academy Award despite multiple nominations. This created significant anticipation among viewers who believed this film might finally earn him major awards recognition. Many audience enter the theater expecting a physically and emotionally intense performance. Media report highlighting his endurance during production, including filming in freezing conditions, amplified curiosity and heightened expectation. Genre fan also play a crucial role in shaping pre-release anticipation. Survival drama enthusiasts often look for realism, tension, and immersive environment. Comparisons are made to earlier survival-centered films such as 127 Hours and Castaway, which focus on human endurance against isolation and nature. However, promotional material for the film emphasize a more brutal frontier-based survival narrative. This suggests a harsher and less contained experience than those earlier films. As a result, viewers who enjoy rugged historical setting and frontier conflict were particularly drawn to the film. Anticipated theme also shaped audience expectation. The marketing and early reviews indicated that the story would explore revenge, resilience, fatherhood, and man relationship with nature. Many viewers expected a straightforward revenge narrative where physical suffering lead to eventual justice. However, because of Irrentio artistic reputation, audience also anticipated deeper thematic layer, possibly philosophical reflection on survival, faith, and morality. This dual expectation, both visual and introspective, created curiosity about how the films would balance emotional depth with physical action. Cinematography became another source of expectation. The involvement of Enumal Lubisky, known for his visually immersive style, suggested that the film would prioritize atmosphere and natural beauty. Reports that the movie was shot using primarily natural light raised expectation of realism and visual authenticity. Audience prepared themselves for sweeping landscape, long takes, and immersive camera movement. For some viewers, this suggested an artistic, almost meditative viewing experience. For other expecting fast-paced action, it signaled a slower and more deliberate style. At the same time, mainstream audience drawn by the film's trailer may have expected intense action sequence and dramatic confrontation. The bear attack scene, heavily discussed before release, became a focal point of public interest. This created anticipation for realistic survival spectacle. However, those familiar with art house cinema likely anticipated that the film would not rely solely on action but would emphasize the atmosphere and emotional endurance. There was also expectation shaped by award season boost. The film was positioned as a major award contender even before wide release. This often signaled to audience that the film may prioritize artistic achievement over conventional entertainment pacing. Viewers familiar with award-driven films may have prepared for a serious, demanding experience rather than light entertainment. Audience expectation before watching the film vary depending on demographic background and genre preferences. Mature viewers anticipated an intense survival drama. Fan of prestige cinema expected artistic direction and visual innovation. Admirers of Leonardo DiCaprio anticipated a career-defining performance. Survival genre enthusiasts expected realism and environmental tension. Together, these expectations form a complex framework, positioning the film not simply as an invention story but as a serious cinematic event defined by endurance, atmosphere, and artistic ambition. The film is designed for a specific type of viewers rather than a broad, all ages audience. Its tone, pacing, violence, and thematic depth clearly position it as a film aimed primarily at a mature and serious viewer. When examining its target audience, it is helpful to consider age group, personal interest, and genre preferences. In terms of age group, the film is most appropriate for adults, particularly viewers age 18 and above. The film contains graphic violence, intense survival sequence, and emotionally heavy themes such as loss, revenge, and suffering. The pacing is slow and deliberate, which may not appeal to younger viewers who prefer fast moving narrative or light entertainment. The teen audience might find the films visually impressive, but its emotional weight and extended quiet sequence are better suited for viewers with patience and an appreciation for serious storytelling. Therefore, the primary age demographic consists of mature adults who are comfortable engaging with intense material. From an interest perspective, the film strongly appeal to viewers who appreciate realism and immersive cinematic experience. This is not a fantasy-driven survival story. It emphasizes physical hardship and environmental authenticity. Audience who enjoy films that explore human endurance, physiological resilience, and the relationship between the people and nature are likely to connect with it. Viewers who are interested in historical setting, particularly the early 19th century American frontier, may also find the film engaging due to its detailed portrayal of wilderness life and fur trapping expeditions. The film also targets audience who follow award season cinema and prestige filmmaking. The involvement of director Alejandro Inarritu signals an artistic approach rather than a purely commercial one. Inarritu is known for challenging narratives and stylistic ambitions, so viewers who appreciate audio-driven cinema are the part of intended audience. In files, individuals who value cinematography, direction, and production design are likely to be specifically interested in this film. Performance-driven film enthusiasts are another key target group. The castings of Leonardo DiCaprio in the leading role attracted viewers who closely follow his career. Audience interested in the intense character performance and physical acting were likely drawn to the film. Similarly, fans of Tom Hardy would find the character dynamic compelling. The movie emphasizes internal struggle more than dialogue heavy interaction, so it appealed to viewers who appreciate subtitle yet physically demanding performance. In terms of genre preferences, the film is more suitable for fans of survival drama and historical adventure film. However, it differs from mainstream adventure movies because it avoids human unconventional heroic arcs. Instead, it maintains a sober and reflective tone. Fan of survival narratives such as Castaway or 127 may appreciate the endurance-focused storytelling. Although the Revenant presents a harsher and more visually expensive experience, the film may also attract viewers who prefer atmospheric and visually immersive cinema. Cinematography by Anumia Lubezki emphasizes natural light and wild landscape, appealing to those who value visual artistry. Viewers who enjoy slow burn storytelling and are comfortable with minimum dialogue are more likely to appreciate the pacing. Those seeking fast paced action light entertainment may find the film demanding rather than enjoyable. It is less suited for audience looking for family-friendly content, romantic subplot, or uplifting themes. The emotional tone remains serious and intense throughout. The revenge element may attract some mainstream action viewer, but the execution is restrained and contemplative rather than explosive. The target audience for the film consists primarily of major adults who appreciate survival drama, historical setting, artistic cinematography, and the performance-driven storytelling. It is crafted for viewers who value atmosphere, realism, and emotional endurance over rapid entertainment. While visually impressive for a broad audience, its pacing, tone, and thematic weight clearly indicate that it is made for serious film enthusiasts rather than casual viewers seeking light escapism. The Revenant promises an emotional experience that is intense, immersive, and physically felt rather than simply observed. From its opening moment, the film establishes a mood that is cold, isolated, and relentless. It does not aim to comfort or entertain in a light-hearted way. Instead, it invites the viewers into a sustained atmosphere of endurance and vulnerability. The emotional journey mirrors the harshness of the natural world depicted on screen. The dominant mood of the film is somber and forgiving. Snow-covered landscape, grey skies, and quiet wilderness setting create a sense of emotional distance. Silence play a powerful role in shaping the viewer's internal response. Long stretches without dialogue heighten feeling of isolation, making every sound, beat, breath, cracking ice feel significant. This restrained atmosphere encouraging viewer to slow down and to absorb the weight of each moment. The mood is not chaotic but heavy, deliberate, and immersive. At the thematic level, the film explores survival, grief, revenge, faith, and human resilience. Survival is portrayed not as a thrilling adventure but as a painful necessity. The protagonist's physical suffering becomes central to the emotional experience. Viewers are not merely watching a characters overcome obstacles, they are asked to endure those obstacles alongside him. This creates empathy through discomfort. The audience feels exhaustion, hunger, and cold almost symbolically through the film's visuals and auditory design. Revenge is an other major theme, but it is treated with complexity rather than presenting revenge as satisfying or refined. The film frames it as a burdensome and emotionally draining. The desire for justice drives the narrative, yet the journey toward it is filled with suffering and doubt. This approach creates a reflected emotional tone. The viewer is encouraged to question whether vengeance truly brings peace. The intended impact is not simple catharsis but contemplation. Grief is woven deeply into the narrative. Loss loss shapes the protagonist's motivation and emotional state. The film does not use dramatic speeches to express sorrow. Instead, it communicates grief through silence, memory, and visual symbolism. Dreamline sequence and brief visions add emotional depth without breaking the somber tone. These moments soften the brutality just enough to reveal the vulnerability beneath physical endurance. The intended impact of the film is immersive realism. Director Alejandro Inarritu structured the story in a way that prioritizes experience over plot speed. The pacing is slow and deliberate, allowing tension to develop gradually rather than delivering quick emotional effect. Even after the film ends, the viewers may carry a sense of heaviness or reflection. Cinematography by Nomi Lubisky intensify the emotional atmosphere. Natural lighting and wide-angle composition create visual authenticity. Close-up shots of breath in freezing air and strained facial expression foster intimacy, while expansive landscape shots emphasize loneliness. This contrast between closeness and vastness deepen the emotional resonance. The performance of Leonardo DiCaprio also shaped the promised emotional experience. His portrait rely heavily on physical expression rather than dialogue. Pain, determination, and grief are communicated through movement and endurance. This physicality invites viewers to connect emotionally through observation of struggle rather than verbal explanation. Ultimately, the film promises an experience defined by intensity and reflection. It does not offer easy comfort or conventional entertainment satisfaction. Instead, it aims to immerse the audience in an atmosphere of survival and emotional endurance. The mood remains serious and contemplative. The theme explores fundamental human intents, and the intended impact is lasting rather than momentary. Viewers are left not only with images of wilderness but with a deeper awareness of resilience, vulnerability, and the cost of survival. The Revenant is built upon a core idea that extends beyond survival and revenge, and at its most abstract level, the story is an exploration of human endurance, not only the endurance of the body but the endurance of identity, memory, and will. Beneath the harsh physical journey lies a meditation on what remains of a person when everything external is stripped away. The central story concept revolves around confrontation with nature, with betrayal, and with the self. The wilderness in the film function as more than a setting; it operates as a force of sure civilization, comfort, and social order disappear, leaving only instant and vulnerability. In this stripped down environment, the protagonist struggle becomes symbolic of humanity fragile position within the natural world. The film suggests that survival is not a triumph over nature but a negotiation with it. One of the primary themes is resilience. However, the resilience here is not portrayed as heroic spectacle. It is slow, painful, persistent. The narrative repeatedly places the central character in situations that appear impossible to survive. Each act of survival becomes less about strength and more about refusal to surrender to cool, injury, or disappear. The message embedded with this theme is that survival often depends not on power but on endurance of suffering. Another core theme is revenge, yet it is treated as an emotional burden rather than a reward. The desire for justice drives the narrative forward, but the journey toward it is isolated and destructive. The film raises question about whether revenge restores balance or simply prolongs pain. By presenting vengeance or something heavier consumer, the story challenges in conventional narrative where retaliation leads to satisfaction. Instead, it suggests that the revenge may sustain survival, but it does not necessarily heal loss. Grief also forms a fundamental part of the film abstract framework. The loss experienced by the protagonist become both wound and motivation. Grief is portrayed as a quiet force, present even in silence. It does not erupt into dramatic outbursts. Instead, it lingers in memory and shapes action. The films imply that memory can be both sustaining and painful. In this sense, survival becomes tied not only to the physical endurance but to emotional continuity. The preservation of connection through remembrance. Faith, spirituality subtly inform the story deeper meaning. The wilderness becomes a space of reflection and confrontation with morality. Moments of stillness suggest contemplation beyond immediate survival. The narrative hits that endurance may be connected to belief in justice, in reunion, or in something beyond physical suffering. Yet the film avoids clear answer, leaving interpretation open. The abstract message is less about doctrine, and more about inner strength drawn from unseen sources. The story also engages with the theme of identity when stripped of community and structure. The protagonist must define himself through action alone. The environment does not recognize status or morality, it responds only to vulnerability. In such a world, identity becomes internal rather than social. The film suggests that a person's essence is revealed under pressure, endurance becomes a measure of selfhood. The director Alejandro G. Inarritu framed this story concept through immersive realism. The long takes and natural lighting emphasize continuity and immediacy. This stylistic choice reinforces the idea that survival unfolds moment by moment without dramatic shortcuts. Cinematography by Nomia Lubisky further abstract the narrative by contrasting vast landscape with immediate human suffering. The environment appear internal while the individuals appear fragile. The visual contrast underscores this philosophical tension between premises and imprimances. The performance of Leonardo DiCaprio embodies the film's conceptual focus on physical and emotional persistence. Dialogue is minimal, suggesting that words are insufficient in extreme condition. Expression is conveyed through brief movement and silence. This reinforces the abstract idea that survival is primal and beyond language. Ultimately, the core message of the film centers on the endurance of the human spirit when confronted with erasure by nature, betrayal, and loss. The film proposes that survival is not merely about staying alive, but it is about holding on to meaning when circumstances attempt to strip it away. It suggests that silence is born from convention to memory to purpose to believe, even when those connections are invisible. In abstract terms, the story becomes less about one individual revenge and more about humanity confrontation with limited tasks, what remained when comfort disappeared, when justice seemed distant, and when survival required relentless persistence. The answer offered is quiet but powerful. What remains is will, fragile, wounded, yes, unextinguished. The Revenant is structured around a central conflict that operates on multiple levels physical, moral, or existential. While it appears on the surface to be a struggle between individuals, its deeper tension lies in the collision between survival intention and moral convention. The conflict is not limited to opposition between characters, it extends into the natural world and into the internal landscape of the humanscape. And its most fundamental level, the central challenge revolves around survival under extreme conditions. The environment is indifferent, vast, and unforgiving. Nature does not act as a villain with intention, it simply exists without mercy. This creates a persistent tension between vulnerability and endurance. The human body is fragile, yet the will to survive persists. Surrender. The conflict here is elemental. The instinct to live against forces that continuously threaten to extinguish life. It is not dramatic in a conventional sense, it is quite constant and physically exhausting. Layer onto this physical struggle is a moral dilemma centered on betrayal and justice. When trust is broken in a world already stripped of stability, the emotional stake intensify. The film's tension emerges from the question of how one responds to injustices in an environment where law and order are absent. In the wilderness, there are no formal system to correct wrongdoing. Justice becomes personal rather than institutional. This creates a moral conflict between forgiveness and vengeance, between acceptance and retaliation. The film suggests that revenge is not a simple reaction but a consuming force. The desire for retribution can sustain purpose, yet it can also narrow one's vision. The central tension grows from uncertainty of whether pursuing justice restores balance or deepens suffering. The moral dilemma lies in choosing between survival that preserves the self and survival that is fueled by anger. In this sense, the conflict between philosophical is endurance driven by love and memory or by resentment and rage. Another dimension of the central conflict involves identity under pressure, strips of comfort and social structure. Individuals must define themselves through action. The environment tests not only physical capacity but moral boundaries. Under extreme hardship, the line between necessity and clarity can blur. This generates tension around ethical decision making. When survival is at stake, what compromise are justified, the film does not present easy answers, but it continually suggests that character is revealed through response to adversity. Isolation intensifies the conflict. Without community support or shared moral framework, choice carry heavier weight. Solitude amplifies doubt and internal struggle. The absence of dialogue and social reassurance shift the tension inward. The central character greatest opponent is not slowly extend threat but internal exhaustion and emotional strain. The challenge become maintaining purpose and when hope appear distance die. Director Alejandro Inarritu heighten this tension through pacing and visual immersion. Long unbroken shots create a sense of continuous pressure. The audience is not given frequent relief. Instead, they experience sustained confrontation with hardship. This stylistic choice reinforces the idea that conflict is not episodic but ongoing. It mirrors the unending nature of the protagonist's struggle. Cinematography by Newman Lubezki further deepened the central conflict by contrasting human fragility with the immensity of the natural war. Wild landscape draft individual figures suggesting insignificance against vast forces. At the same time, close-up shows capture breathe, pain, and determination, emphasizing human resilience. This duality embodies the tension between smallness and strength. It is also an existential dimension to the central conflict. The wildness setting becomes symbolic of life unpredictability and difference. Survival is uncertain, justice is ambiguous, and suffering appear random. The tension arises from confronting meaninglessness while still choosing to act. The core question become whether purpose can exist in a world that offer no guaranteed. The film implies that meaning is not granted by circumstances but created through persistence. Ultimately, the central conflict of the film is a rare layered struggle between intense and morality, endurance and despair, revenge and acceptance. It is a confrontation between the human desire for justice and the indifferent force of nature. The tension does not rely solely on confrontation between actors. It resides in the choice made under extreme pressure. The film presents conflict as something that shapes identity. Enduring hardship and facing moral uncertainty, the individual define who they are. Through this sustained tension, the story explores the cost of survival, not only in physical terms but in emotional and ethical dimensions. The conflict remains unresolved in simple terms, the encouraging reflection rather than providing clear resolution. It suggests that the greatest battles are not always fought with weapons but with the human spirit itself. The film explores a range of layered and interconnected themes that extend beyond survival and revenge. Beneath its harsh physical setting lies a meditation on ethical responsibility, emotional endurance, and culture tension. The film thematic depth is revealed not through heavy dialogue but through atmosphere, visual storytelling, and prolonged struggle. One of the most prominent themes is survival but is presenting as more than physical persistence. Survival become an ethical and emotional test. The film raises the question, what does a person become when survival is the only priority in extreme condition? Moral boundaries are challenged. The ethical tension lies in whether survival justify betrayal, violence, or abandonment. The story does not simplify these dilemmas. Instead, it suggests that harsh environment expose the fragile balance between preservation and moral responsibility. Closely tied to survival is the theme of revenge. Revenge function as both motivation and burden. The emotional arc surrounding this theme is complex. While the desire for justice fuel endurance, it also narrow emotional focus. The film poses ethical question about the cost of vengeance. Does retaliation restore dignity or it does prolong suffering? Is revenge an act of strength or continuation of pain? By avoiding a definite tone, the narrative implies that revenge may sustain purpose, but it does not necessarily heal grief. Grief itself forms a central emotional arc. Loss is not treated as a single event but as a continuous presence. The film portrays grief as quiet and persistent rather than explosive. Memory becomes a source of both pain and strength. The emotional journey suggests that grief can drive survival, yet it also isolates. The tension lies in whether the protagonist's endurance is rooted in love or in anger. This duality deepens the emotional complexity of the narrative. Another important theme is the relationship between humanity and nature. Nature in the film is not romanticized, it is vast, indifferent, and at times destructive. The wilderness does not discriminate, it challenges everyone equally. This portrait raises philosophical questions about human dominance and vulnerability. The film suggests that nature is not an enemy to conquer but a force to endure. The ethical undertone here relate to humility. Humanity places with a larger uncomfortable world. Culture topics also emerge through the depiction of frontier life and interaction between different communities. The historical center introduced theme of colonialization, territorial conflict, and cultural misunderstanding. Indigenous characters are not merely background figures; they represent parallel experience of survival and displacement. The film subtitle acknowledges the violence and tension inherent in territorial expansion. This culture layer adds complexity, reminding viewers that survival and revenge occur with border and system of power and historical conflict. The theme of faith spirituality is woven into the narrative is subtitled Moment of Stillness and Dreamland Imaginary suggests reflection beyond physical struggle. The story raises question about belief in justice, destiny, or reunion beyond suffering. Spiritual imaginary does not dominate the narrative but offer emotional contrast to brutality. This thematic layer invites viewer to consider whether endurance is sustained by physical strength alone or by belief in something tangible. Identity is another theme explored through the film. In isolation, strip of societal structure, individuals most confront who they are without external validation. The environment acts as a test of character, ethical decision made under pressure, define identity more than word or status. The film implies that a diversity reveals essence. This idea is reinforced through the minimalistic performance style and limited dialogue. Director Alejandro Inarritu frames these themes through immersive realism, while cinematographer Enumia Lubisky enhanced thematic expression through visual contrast. Expansive landscape emphasizing significance while close-up shots highlight emotional intensity. This stylistic choice reinforces the theme of small human presence with an overwhelming force. The performance of Leonardo DiCaprio embodies the emotional arc of endurance. His largely physical portrayal underscores the theme that survival and grief are often worldless experience. Emotional expression urges through breath, posture, and persistence rather than speech. Ultimately, the film explores ethical questions about justice and survival, emotional arc rooted in grief and resilience, and culture tension tied to historical expansion. It presents survival not as victory but as transformation. Through layered theme and restrained storytelling, the film invites viewers to reflect on morality under pressure, the cost of vagueness, and humanity fragile yet determined place within the natural world. The film creates emotional connection is through frequent dialogue or dramatic speeches, but through atmosphere, physical struggle, and sustained immersion. The story reaches viewer by placing them inside an experience rather than simply showing them a narrative. Its emotional power emerges gradually, shaped by mood, theme, and intensity of the viewing experience. The mood of the film plays a crucial role in forming this connection from the beginning. The atmosphere is cold, quiet, and heavy. Snow-covered landscape and muted color create visual isolation. The absence of lively background music or rapid dialogue forces viewer to focus on breathing, movement, and environmental sound. This stillness draws attention to vulnerability. When characters struggle against harsh element, the audience feel the discomfort because the film refuses to distract or soften the experience. The emotional bond is formed through sheer endurance. Themes of survival and resilience deepen this connection. Survival is presenting not as a heroic drift but as slow resistance. The central character physical suffering is prolonged and detailed. We were witness exhaustion, injury, and determination through dramatic exaggeration. This realism encourages empathy. The struggle feels tangible, not symbolic. Because the film avoids quick solution, the audience must sit with discomfort, which strengthens the emotional involvement. Grief is another theme that enhances viewer connection. Loss is portrayed quietly through memory and silence rather than emotional outbursts. This subtly allows viewer to project their own experience of grief on to the story. The film does not instruct audience how to feel, instead it creates space for reflection. The emotional connection raised from recognition of pain, longing, and attachment. The quiet presentation of sorrow feel authentic, which make it relatable. Revenge adds complexity to the viewer's emotional response. While revenge typically generates excitement in many films, here it carries weight and moral tension. The desire for justice is understandable, yet the journey toward it feels isolating and burdensome. Viewers may experience conflicting emotions, sympathy for suffering alongside uncertainty about the cost of happiness. This emotional ambiguity feel keep the audience engaged at a deeper level instead of cheering for conflict. We will reflect on its consequences. Viewer experiences shaped strongly by director Alejandro Inarritu, who emphasize immersion over exposition. Long, unbroken shots create continuity, making scenes feel immediate and unavoidable. The camera often remains close to the protagonist's face, capturing breath in freezing air and subtitle expression of pain. This intimacy fosters closeness. The audience is not observing from a distance, they are positioned alongside the character. Cinematography by Newman Lubisky intensifies its emotional immersion. Wide landscape shot emphasize isolation, while close-up show highlights fragility. The contrast between vast wilderness and small human figure evoke both awe and vulnerability. Viewers feel the insignificance of individual against nature's scale, yet they also feel admiration for human endurance. This duality deepens emotional engagement. The performance of Leonardo DiCaprio is central to the film's emotional impact. His portrait relies heavily on physical expression rather than dialogue. Pain, determination, and grief are communicated through posture, breathing, and movement. Because words are limited, emotions feel raw and unfiltered. The viewers must interrupt facial expression and gesture, which encourage active emotional participation. Another important aspect of the emotional connection is pacing. The film moves slowly, allowing viewers time to process each time. This deliberate rhythm mirrors exhaustion and struggle, while some audience may find the pacing challenging. Those who engage with it often experience a stronger emotional bond. The sustained tension prevents emotional detachment. Ultimately, the story connects emotionally by inviting viewer into endurance rather than entertainment. Its mood is sober, its themes are universal, and its style is immersive. The audience experience not only the narrative of survival but also the emotional weight of the isolation, grief, and persistence. By focusing on atmosphere and internal struggle rather than spectacle, the film creates a connection that lingers beyond the final scene. It leaves viewers reflecting on resilience, vulnerability, and the quiet strength required to continue when everything feels lost. The Riven art presents its character less as conventional narrative figure and more as embodiment of endurance, intense, and moral tension. In a reviewer's perspective, the film's strength lies not in complex dialogue exchange but in how its main character represent archetypes shaped by extreme circumstances. Their personalities are revealed through action, silence, and survival rather than extended exposition. The primary figure, Hugh Glass, portrayed by Leonardo DiCaprio, functions as the archetype of the wounded warrior. He is not introduced as a loud or dominant hero. Instead, he represents resilience under pressure. His personality traits include quiet determination, emotional restraint, and deep internal focus. Glass is defined less by what he says and more what he endures. His strength is not rooted in aggression but in persistence. As a reviewer, one observes that the character's emotional arc revolves around transformation through suffering. He begins as part of a group structure but gradually becomes isolated, forced to rely entirely on instinct and memory. His archetype shifts from frontiersman to almost mythic warrior, a symbol of endurance stripped to its most primal form. Glass also embodies archetype of the grieving father. His emotional motivation is tied to memory and loss. This adds depth beyond physical survival. The personality trait associated with this aspect include protectiveness, loyalty, and the suppressed vulnerability. The Pyro portrait emphasizes physical expression over verbal explanation, making Glass feel grounded and human rather than exaggerated. As a reviewer, one can argue that the character succeed because his pain feel lived in rather than performed. In contrast, John Fitzgerald, portrayed by Tom Hardy, represent a different survival archetype, the pragmatic opportunistic. Fitzgerald embodies self-preservation without moral hesitation. His personality traits include cynicism, aggression, and calculated realism. Where Glass is quiet and reflective, Fitzgerald is vocal and confrontational. He sees that the world as hostile and respond accordingly. From a reviewer standpoint, Fitzgerald serves as a thematic counterpoint to Glass. Both characters are shaped by the same environment, yet they respond differently. That contrast fuel the central moral tension of the film. Fitzgerald archetype can also be described as the survivor without sentiment. He prioritizes practicality over emotional loyalty. His world view is shaped by distrust and experience. Hardy's performance gives the characters a raw, unpredictable energy, making him compiling rather than one dimension. As a reviewer, it becomes clear that Fitzgerald is not written as a simple villain, he is also embodiment of survival, strip of empathy. This complexity prevents the narrative from becoming morally simplistic. Another key figure is Captain Henry, portrayed by Domhnall Gleeson. He represents the archetype of the structure, leadership with chaos. His personality traits include responsibility, discipline, and moral balance. Unless Fitzgerald and Henry attempt to maintain order and fairness despite environmental pressure. From a reviewer perspective, Henry functions as a stabilizing force in the narrative. He represents civilization attempt to survive within wilderness condition. His presence highlights the fragility of authority when removed from institutional support. The supporting character include indigenous figure encountered throughout the narrative contribute to the broader thematic structure. They are not merely background element but represent parallel survival stories. Their archetype can be viewed as displaced, protected individual, defended, and culture and family. This include add cultural dimension to the character landscape and reinforce the theme that survival and loss are universal experience, not limited to one perspective. Director Alejandro Inarritu deliberately limits extensive backstory, allowing personality to emerge organically through behavior. Cinematographer Emmanuel Lubezki sport this by keeping the camera close to faces and physical movement, emphasizing emotions over exposition. Character in the film function as archetypes shaped by extreme condition. The wounded Savorius, the pragmatic, opportunistic, and the burdened leader. Their personality traits are revealed through endurance, moral choices, and silence. As a reviewer, one can appreciate how these figures are constructed not as a conventional heroes and villain, but as reflection of different response to the same unforgiving world. The film stands as a performance-driven survival drama where acting is expressed less through dialogue and more through physical endurance, emotional strain, and raw presence. The performance feel live rather than performance. This authenticity becomes one of the film's most powerful emotional anchor. At the center is Leonardo DiCaprio, whose portrayal of Hugh Glass is almost completely physical. This is not a role built on lengthy speeches or dramatic monologue. Instead, DiCaprio communicates a suffering through breath, posture, and facial tension. His performance is immersive because it feels exhausting to watch, and that exhaustion is intentional. The audience senses that cold, the pain, and the desperation through this body language. Alone emotionally, his work carries a quiet intensity. There are moments where grief flickers across his face without word, and those subtitle expressions carry more weight than dialogue could. What made DiCaprio performance particularly moving is the vulnerability beneath the toughness. Glass is not portrayed as inconceivable. He is wounded, fragile, and at times barely conscious. Yet there is a persistent spark of determination in his eyes that contrasts physical weakness paired with emotional willpower, create a deep emotional response in viewers. His commitment to realism transforms the character from a fictional figure into a symbol of endurance. He is a performance that demands attention not because it is loud but because it is relentless. Opposite him, Tom Hardy delivers a promotional performance filled with rough energy and unpredictability. Hardy's portrayal of John Fitzgerald brings tension into every shared frame. His vocal delivery, posture, and guarded expression communicates suspicion and hearted experience. Emotionally, Hardy does not seek empathy. Instead, he embodies a survivalistic mindset shaped by distrust and pragmatism. There is a rawness to his performance that feels dangerous even when he is still. The chemistry between DiCaprio and Hardy is not warm or cooperative, it is charged and confrontation. Their dynamic operate like opposing force, silence versus aggression, endurance versus optimism. Even in scenes with minimal dialogue, the tension between them is pliable. The emotional friction fuels the narrative. The performance complement each other by contrast, each highlighting the other approach to survival and morality. The supporting cast also contribute meaningfully to the film's emotional weight. Domhnall Gleason as Captain Henry offer a performance grounded in restraint and responsibility. His presence provide a sense of temporary order within chaos. Gleason bring quiet authority to the role, portraying leadership within theatrical execution. His emotional tone feel may we strengthen the contrast between structure, molarity, and the surrounding brutality. Indigenous character portrayed by actors such as Forrest Goodluck and Dion Howard add emotional depth and culture dimension. Their performances are marked by dignity and subtitle strength. Even with limited screen time, they bring authenticity and humanity to the story's border landscape. The emotional resonance of their roles lies in quiet resilience rather than dramatic confrontation. Director Alejandro Inarritu framed these performances with an immersive camera work, often placing the lens close to the actor's face. This proximity intensifies emotional connection. Cinematography by Newman Lubisky enhances the intimacy, capturing beneath in freezing air and subtitle shift in expression. The actors are not hidden behind fast editing, they are exposed, vulnerable, and fully visible. Emotionally, the performance in the film feels demanding and sincere. There is a little theatricality and no attempt to soften the brutality. Instead, the acting invites viewers to endure alongside the character. The chemistry is built on tension rather than commentary, and that tension sustains the film dramatic force. Ultimately, the acting performance elevates the film from a survival story to an emotional experience. Through physical commitment, restraint, expression, and charge dynamic, the cast create character that feel painful, real. The emotional impact linger because the performance feel authentic, as if the actors themselves have passed through the same harsh wilderness as their character. The film built much of its power on realism and emotional depth rather than conventional dramatic structure. The film does not rely heavily on dramatic speeches or complex plot twists to create impact. Instead, it achieves authenticity through character development rooted in physical endurance, moral ambiguity, and physiological strain. The realism feel immersive, and the depth of its character emerges gradually through silence, suffering, and survival. One of the most striking aspects of the film realism lies in its approach to character development. The central figure portrayed by Leonardo DiCaprio does not undergo transformation through dialogue or dramatic realization. His development occurs through physical, emotional endurance. At the beginning, he is a part of a structured group dynamic. As the story progresses, isolation becomes his defining condition. The shift is not explored through exposition, it is experienced through action. Each hardship strips away layer of external identity, leaving behind a more primal focused sense of self. The development feel organic because it is shaped by circumstances rather than narrative convenience. Believability is reinforced through the film commitment to the environmental authenticity. Director Alejandro Inarritu insisted on filming in real wilderness conditions, which enhance the credibility of performance. When characters struggle through snow or endure freezing temperature, the discomfort appears genuine. The audience does not feel separated from the environment but studio polish. Instead, the natural light cinematography by Newman Lubisky makes every breath visible and every moment laborious. This visual authenticity support emotional believability, and the antagonist figure portrayed by Tom Hardy also benefit from this realism. Rather than being presented as purely villainous, he is represented as a product of harsh condition. His worldview reflects pragmatism shaped by survival instinct. This complexity adds depth. His action may be morally questionable, but they stem from fear, self-preservation, and experience. The character feel human rather than exaggerated, which strengthen the moral tension within the story. Emotional range within the film is subtle yet powerful because the dialogue is minimal. Emotions are communicated with through physicality and expression. Pain, grief, determination, and anger are conveyed through posture, breath, and silence. This restrained style prevents emotional exaggeration. The audience must observe closely to interpret shift in mood. As a result, the emotional experience feels earned rather than imposed. The portrayal of grief is particularly realistic. It is not dramatized with constant outburst. Instead, it lingers quietly, influencing decisions and endurance. The protagonist's motivation is deeply personal, yet is rarely verbalized. This mirrors how grief often operates in reality as a private force shaping behavior beneath the surface. The emotional depth comes from what remain unspoken. Supporting character also contribute to realism. Domhnall Gleeson portray leadership with mere restraint rather than heroic dramatic. His presence reflects the identity of maintaining order in extreme circumstances, indigenous character in the narrative adaptability with dignity and agency, adding cultural authenticity to the frontier setting. This struggle parallel the central narrative, broadening the emotional and historical scope. Another dimension of the depth raises from moral ambiguity. The film avoids clear moral deviance, survival, complicate ethical boundaries, and character must make decisions in environment where traditional societal roles are absent. This ambiguity enhances realism because human behavior under pressure rarely align with simple categories of good and evil. The tension between survival and morality gives the character psychological dimension. Pacing also sport depth. The slow, deliberate rhythm allows viewers to observe gradual changes in emotional state. Character growth is not rushed, endurance unfolds moment by moment, reinforcing credibility. The viewer experiences exhaustion alongside the character, strengthening emotional alignment. Ultimately, the realism and depth of the film stem from its commitment to authenticity, environmental, emotional, and moral. Character development emerges through hardship rather than exposition. Believability is strengthened by immersive production choices. Emotional range is conveyed through subtitled physical expression rather than overt dramatization. The result is a film where characters feel less scripted figure and more like individuals shaped by extreme unforgiving circumstances. The film was produced with an estimated budget in the range of $135 million, placing it in the upper tier of historical survival drama. While this figure is modest compared to the large-scale superhero franchise that often exceed $200 million, it is high for a character-driven survival film with a relatively contained narrative. A closer analytical look at cost ranges, resource allocation, and comparison to the similar film help explain why the budget reached this level. From a cost range perspective, survival drama typically fall into categories contain low budget production and large scale environmental epics. Smaller survival films such as 127 are were produced for under $20 million due to its limited location and minimal cost requirement. On the other hand, visually ambitious survival stories like Life of Pi operated with budget around $120 million because of heavy visual effect usage. The films fall closer to the higher end of the spectrum not because of extensive CGI spectacle but because of its demanding environmental production strategy. A major portion of the film budget was allocated to location-based shooting. Director Alejandro Inarritu insisted on filming in natural wilderness setting rather than controlled studio environment. Production initially took place in remote region of Canada and later relocated to Argentina due to inconsistent snowfall. Such moves significantly increased logistical expense. Transporting cast, crew, and equipment to isolated landscape required specialized planning, including temporary camp, weather resistance gear, medical safety measure, and complex transportation system. Environmental unpredictability further affected cost because the film relied heavily on natural light and real winter conditions. Shooting schedule were restricted to specific times of the day. Cinematography and Newman Lubisky used natural lighting technique which limited filming windows to brief periods when lighting conditions were optimal. This artistic decision extended the production timeline. Longer schedule translate directly into higher labor, equipment rental, and insurance expenses. In terms of resource allocation, a significant share of the budget went toward crew compensation and technical expertise. The film required experienced cinematography team capable of executing long immersive tracking shots. This technically complex sequence demanded rehearsal time and precision, increasing the daily production cost. While the movie is not dominated by large scale digital visual effect was still used strategically for sequences that require safety enhancement or environmental augmentation. These post production elements added to the overall financial structure. Above the line cost also contributed substantially. The involvement of high profile actors such as Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hardy meant that talent salaries likely represented a significant percentage of the total budget. Established actors command premium compensation, particularly when leading a physically demanding prestige of project. However, because the central cost was relatively small, these costs remain constructed rather than spread across a very different and the large ensemble. When compared to the similar film, The Revenant occupies a unique financial position. The Martin, for example, had a production budget slightly above $100 million, benefited from studio-based environment and control set. In contrast, the Revenant prioritized realism over efficiency, choosing environmental authenticity rather than digital substitution. These philosophical production choices increase operational costs but enhance artistic credibility. Calmly analyze the $135 million budget reflects strategic investment in realism, environmental immersion, and high level craftsmanship rather than spectral living extravagance. The cost structure aligned with the film's ambition to create an immersive survival experience grounded in physical authenticity. Considering its strong global box office performance and multiple award recognition, the production budget appears appropriate to both its artistic scope and commercial outcome. The Revenant achieved a strong domestic box office performance in the United States and Canada, earning approximately $183 million during its theatrical run. When placed within the context of its general release timing and the audience strength, this figure represents a significant accomplishment for a survival drama that leaned heavily into art house sensibilities rather than mainstream spectacle. In terms of region, the North America market plays a crucial role in shaping the film's commercial identity. The movie opens in limited release in late December 2015 to qualify for award season consideration before expanding nationwide in January 2016. This staggered strategy allowed critical acclaim and award boost to build momentum. As nomination and win accumulated, particularly during the weight of award season, audience interest expanded beyond traditional genre fan to include prestige film viewers. The film wide release capitalized on that momentum, translating critical recognition into sustained ticket sale. Audience trend in the domestic market at that time favored large franchise properties and family friendly release. The film competed in a landscape that included blockbuster entertainment and franchise sequel, yet it managed to secure steady attendance through word of mouth and star appeal. The presence of Leonardo DiCaprio was a decisive factor. His long-standing popularity in North America, combined with widespread media discussion of his performance, created a strong draw among adult moviegoers. Many viewers are motivated not only by the survival narrative but also by anticipation surrounding his award prospect. Demographically, the domestic audience skew older compared to the typical action adventure film. The movie R rating and instant tone limited its accessibility to younger viewers. Instead, its core domestic audience consists of adult age 25 and above, particularly those drawn to historical drama and serious cinematic experience. The winter release period also benefited from colder weather in many regions, which traditionally sports strong theatre attendance for prestige film. Comparatively, within the survival drama category, the film domestic earnings were impressive. Life of Pi earned roughly $124 million domestically, while 127 hours generated about $18 million in North America. Although those films differ in tone and scale, the comparison highlight how the film exceed expectation for a genre that is often considered niche. Even when compared to the science fiction survival drama The Martin, which earned over $220 million domestically, the films perform competitively despite lacking the broader four-quadrant appeal of a space adventure. Another contextual factor is its production budget of approximately $135 million. With domestic earnings surpassing that figure, the film demonstrated strong market penetration with its primary region, while studios typically rely on international market for profitability. In large-scale production, the North America revenue alone cover a significant portion of the production cost before ancillary markets such as streaming, home media, and international sales were factored in. The film's weekly hold were also notable. Rather than experiencing a sharp decline after opening weekend, it maintained consistent box office traction through January and February 2016. This pattern suggests sustained interest rather than front loaded demand. Award recognition, including major wins at high profile ceremonies, reinforces its cultural relevance and encourages repeat viewing among cinephiles. Domestically, with the United States and Canada, the Revenant art performed among genre norms and demonstrated the commercial viability of a demanding, adult-oriented survival epic. Its box office often result a combination of star power, award momentum, strategic release timing, and audience appetite for immersive prestige filmmaking. The Revenant art generated approximately $349 million international market, bringing its worldwide total to over $530 million. When analyzed separately from its domestic performance, the international box office revealed important insight about regional reception, global market trend, and impact of marketing strategy. From a regional standpoint, Europe played a significantly particular role in the film's international success. Markets such as the United Kingdom, France, Germany, and Spain demonstrated strong interest in prestige historical drama. European audience traditionally respond well to visually driven cinema and auteur filmmaking, and director Alejandro Inarritu had already built international recognition through previous award-winning projects. The film's artistic reputation likely enhanced its appeal through European territory, where critical acclaim strongly influenced attendance. Latin America also contributed meaningfully to the international total. Rento Mexican heritage generated regional interest, and the film received heightened visibility across Spanish-speaking market. Additionally, the presence of Leonardo DiCaprio provide broad cross-cultural appeal. DiCaprio global popularity cultivated over decades of international successful release translated into strong attendance in South America and parts of Asia. In Asia, performance varied by country but remained substantial overall. China, which had become an increasingly influential market by 2015 and 2016, contributed significantly to the international growth. Historical epics and the survival narrative often perform well in that market when supported by strong visual and intense action element. The film emphasized on immersive wilderness cinematography, physical endurance created by a universal narrative that transcended language barrier. Even in a region where dialogue-heavy dramas sometimes struggle, the film's visual storytelling maintained accessibility. Market reception internationally was shaped by award season momentum. As the film accumulated nomination and wins at major ceremonies, global press coverage amplified its prestige status. Award recognition often enhanced box office performance outside North America, particularly in countries where America awarded viewed as makers of quality. The narrative surrounding the DiCaprio long-awaited Academy Award victory became a worldwide media story, reinforces interest in the film during its international role. Marketing impact were also a decisive factor. Promotional campaign emphasized the film's epic scale, harsh natural environment, and the physical commitment of its lead actor. Trailers and the international posters highlighted survival intensity, realism rather than complex historical context. This approach broadened appeal by framing the film as a visual cinematic event rather than slowly a period drama. The marketing message focused on endurance and the revenge and the spectral universal theme that resonate across culture. Comparatively within the survival drama genre, the film's international earnings were particularly strong. Life of Pi performed exceptionally well overseas due to its visual spectacle, and the Revenant achieved a similar pattern of international dominance relative to the domestic total. In contrast, more contained survival films such as 127 are rely heavily on domestic market and did not achieve comparable global penetration. The expansive landscape and cinematic scale of the film position it closer to epic adventure film in terms of international draw. In financial terms, the international box office counted for roughly two-thirds of the film's total global revenue. This distribution reflects broader industry trend where large-scale production increasingly depend on overseas market to ensure profitability. The film's strong international performance not only offset its substantial production budget but also confirmed its cross-cultural resonance. Overall, the international earnings demonstrate that Revenant succeed beyond its North America base, finding enthusiastic audience across Europe, Latin America, and Asia. Its combination of visual spectacle, star power, and award-driven prestige allow it to transcend regional limitation and achieve substantial global commercial success. The Revenant earned achieve a worldwide gross of approximately $533 million, combining about $183 million from North America with roughly $349 million from international territory. When examining this these numbers through a break-even lens, it becomes important to look beyond the headline gross and consider production cost, marketing expenditure, distribution split, and additional revenue stream. The film's reported production budget was around $135 million. However, production cost alone does not determine profitability. Major studio releases typically incur substantial marketing and distribution expenses, often referred to as print and advertising P&A. For a film of this scale, global marketing cost may have ranged $70 million and $100 million. This include international promotional tours, advertising campaign, trailer, poster, digital marketing, award season positioning. While these costs are added to the production budget, the total investment could reasonably fall between $200 million and the $235 million. Break-even analysis must also account for the fact that studio do not retain and the 100% of the box office revenue. Theater take a significant advantage of the ticket sale with domestic box office and the revenue. Theaters take a significant percentage of domestic studio, often receiving roughly 50 to 55% of North America grosses and a somewhat lower percentage internationally, specifically in certain market. Based on this revenue sharing structure, the studio actual performance of the film worldwide box office revenue reached roughly $533 million. At first glance, this appeared more than double the production budget, but the studios do not retain the full gross amount. Theaters chain typically keep around 45 to 50% of the domestic ticket sale and an even larger share in certain international market. After exhibitors split, the studio share of the theatrical revenue was likely closer to the 260 to $300 million. When comparing estimated total cost approximately $20 million on average to estimated theoretical return around $275 million midpoint, the film appears to have generated a moderate but meaningful theoretical profit. Even under the conservative assumption, the movie likely cleared its break-even threshold during or shortly after its theatrical run. Ancillary income further strengthen the profitability profile. Home entertainment sales include Blu-rays, DVD, and digital purchase remain a significant revenue stream for prestige film because the movie received worldwide award recognition, including major Academy Awards. Long-term demand in home formats likely remained steady beyond the theatrical window. Licensing agreement with streaming platform and premium cable network also generate consistent post-theatrical revenue. These deals are typically negotiated in advance or shortly after release and contribute substantial income over several years. Television broadcasting rights, international syndications, and catalog values add additional layer of financial return. Historical epics with strong visual identity often maintain value in international television markets, where visually driven storytelling transcend language barrier. Over time, the cumulative ancillary revenue can match or exceed theoretical profit margin. Return on investment can be evaluated by comparing not gain to total cost. If total investment approach to $20 million and overall revenue including theoretical and ancillary sources surpassed by $100 million in studio return. The film ROI would be considered healthy, particularly for an R-rated survival drama. While it may not reach the extreme profit margin of lower budget horror film or franchise blockbuster, it represents a successful example of prestige cinema achieving both artistic and commercial return. Additionally, profitability should be considered in strategic terms. The film enhanced the reputation of its director Alejandro Inarritu and its lead actor Leonardo DiCaprio. Award wins and nomination increase long-term value for both talent and studio branding. Such intangible return can influence major project financing, audience trust, and global market leverage. In conclusion, when analyzing revenue versus cost, factoring in ancillary income, and assessing ROI, the film was financially profitable. Its global box office performance, combined with sustained post-theatrical earning and prestige-driven market strength, ensure that it is not only recovered its investment but delivered meaningful return within the competitive landscape of high-budget theatrical dramas. The Revenant generated strong and often intense reaction from audience, with responses shaped largely by demographic, viewers' expectation, and level of engagement with its demanding style. From a demographic standpoint, the film resonated most strongly with adult viewers, particularly those aged 25 and above. The R rating, slow pacing, and demographic survival element make it less accessible to younger audience. Mature viewers who appreciate historical drama, survival stories, and performance-driven cinema form the core audience. Many moviegoers attend specifically because of Leonardo DiCaprio, whose reputation and award buzz attracted both long-time fan and prestige films enthusiastic. Male audience show slightly higher turnout due to the rugged survival theme, through the emotional depth also appeal to a broader adult demographic. Viewers feedback frequently praised the film's visual intensity and immersive atmosphere. Audience were particularly struck by the natural cinematography and harsh wilderness setting. Many describe the experience as a visually stunning and physically immersive. The realism of the environment and the minimum dialogue approach created a sense of authenticity that engaged viewers on a sensory level. At the same time, some audience members found the pacing slow and the tone relentlessly grim. This divided feedback reflects the film's uncompromising artistic style. Engagement levels were notably high. Social media discussion and online forums frequently centered on the lead performance, the extreme filming condition, and the film's award prospect. Conservations often debated whether the physical endurance portrayed on screen enhanced the emotional impact. Award season amplify engagement with viewers revisiting the films or discussing its theme in greater depth following major wins. Overall, audience reaction were largely positive, though not universally comfortable. The film was widely respected for its craftsmanship and intensity admiration, even among viewers who found it emotionally heavy. Its ability to provoke strong reaction, admiration, discomfort, or demonstrate its powerful engagement with its audience. The Revenant demonstrate how strong box office performance can significantly shape public and industry perception. While critical reception initially positioned the film as a prestige survival drama with artistic ambition, its global running of over $500 million elevated it beyond niche acclaim into the category of mainstream commercial success. From a critical reception standpoint, the film was already highly regarded for its direction and performance. However, when a critically praised film also achieved substantial box office return, the perception shift from artistically impressive to culturally significant commercial success reinforced critical validation. Audience and industry observers often interpret strong financial performance as confirmation that a film's theme and style resonate beyond elite circle. In this case, the box office results strengthen the narrative that the film was not only award worthy but widely embraced. Studio's reputation is also directly influenced by financial outcome. A large-scale survival drama with a demanding production processes carrying financial risk. By achieving profitability, the film enhanced the credibility of both the studio and the director of the film. It signals that ambition, visually immersive project could succeed commercially without relying on franchise branding. This outcome likely increased studio confidence in supporting prestige-driven production in the future. When compared to the genre appear, the impact become even clearer. Survival drama often perform modestly at the box office relatively to action franchise by surpassing many comparable film in the worldwide gross. The film redefined commercial expectation for its genre. It demonstrated that serious adult-oriented wilderness epic could compete financially with more conventional blockbuster. Ultimately, strong box office performance amplified the film legacy. It transformed perception from a challenging art house experience into a globally validated cinematic achievement, reinforcing its position in both commercial and critical decision. It stands as a visually uncompromising and thematically intense piece of cinema that prioritizes immersion over convenience. From a cinematic quality standpoint, it is undeniably powerful. The film commitment to natural light, expansive landscape, and extended tracking shooting create an experience that feels raw and immediate. The direction by Alejandro G. Argentino is confident and deliberate, favoring atmosphere and endurance over conventional pacing. This artistic boldness is one of its greatest strengths. In terms of production value, the craftsmanship is exceptional. The harsh wilderness setting are not just backdrop; they function almost as characters, shaping the tone and emotional weight of every scene. The attention to environmental realism elevates the film above typical survival drama. However, the same commitment to realism occasionally contribute to its primary weakness. The pacing can feel heavy and prolonged. Some viewers may find the relentless tone executed rather than engaging. Performance-wise, Leonardo DiCaprio delivered a physically and emotionally demanding portrait that anchor the film. His performance rely more on endurance, physical expression, and silent intensity than dialogue, which reinforce the film's immersive quality. Sporting performance, particularly from Tom Hardy, add complexity and tension, preventing the narrative from feeling one-dimensional. Thematically, the film explores survival, resilience, revenge, and humanity fragile relationship with nature. Its themes are not subtle, but they are executed with seriousness and weight. While the emotional range may feel narrow at times due to its unrelenting bleakness, the film commitment to its vision is admirable. Overall, it is a demanding but rewarding cinematic achievement, visually stunning, thematically serious, and anchored by strong performance, though occasionally burdened by its own intensity. The film is best suited for viewers who appreciate intense atmospheric cinema and are comfortable with slow burning, physically demanding storytelling. The film is ideal for adult audience, generally age 18 and above, due to its graphic survival element, harsh violence, and emotionally heavy themes. It is designed for light entertainment or casual viewings. The film is very specific tone, pace, and emotional intensity, which mean it is not designed every type of viewer. Understanding who should and should not watch it depends largely on audience type, genre preferences, and age group. First, this movie is highly recommended for adult audience, generally 18 years and older. The film contains graphic violence, harsh survival conditions, and emotionally heavy themes that may be disturbing or overwhelming for younger viewers. Its R rating reflects not only by physical brutality but also the psychological intent of its storytelling. Mature viewers who can handle dark subject matter and prolonged tension will be better equipped to engage with its message. In terms of audience type, the film is ideal for viewers who appreciate serious performance driven cinema. If you are someone who values strong acting, atmospheric direction, and immersive cinematography, this movie offers a rewarding experience. Fans of Leonardo will likely find this performance specifically compelling as it showcases endurance, restraint, and physical transformation rather than dialogue heavy dramatic. Those who enjoy films that feel raw, realistic will connect strongly with its type. Genre preferences play a crucial role. The movie falls into the historical survival drama category with the element of revenge and psychological endurance. Viewers who enjoy wilderness survival story, frontier narrative, and slow burn drama will likely appreciate the pacing and tone the film unfold deliberately, allowing tension to build gradually through environment and atmosphere rather than rapid plot twist. If you prefer thoughtful, visually driven storytelling over fast editing and constant action, this film aligns well with your taste. Our audience seeking like entertainment, humor, or fast paced adventure may find it challenging, and the pacing is slow and often imitative. Stretches rely on visual storytelling instead of dialogue, which can feel demanding for viewers who prefer constant narrative explanation. Additionally, the emotional tone is unrelentingly grim. There are very few moments of relief or warmth, and the overall atmosphere remain cold, intense, and serious throughout. Emotionally, the film resonates most with viewers who are prepared for a heavy and immersive journey. Its theme of survival, resilience, revenge, and humanity, fragile relationship with mature, create a powerful emotional impact. The movie does not aim to comfort; it aims to comfort, confront. Audience who appreciate films that provoke reflection and discomfort may find this deeply meaningful. On the other hand, sensitive viewers or those currently looking for uplifting or escapism content may not find it enjoyable. Cinephiles who admire director-driven project will also benefit from watching the film's director by Alejandro Inarritu. The movie reflects a clear artistic vision. The emphasis on natural lighting, real environment, and immersive camera work create a distinct style. Viewers who enjoy analyzing filmmaking technique and production choice will find much to admire. The film is best suited for mature audience who enjoy intense, visually immersive historical drama with strong performance and serious theme. It may not be appropriate for younger viewers, those sensitive to graphic content, or anyone seeking a light, fast-pacing cinematic experience. If you appreciate emotionally demanding storytelling and atmosphere, realism, the movie offers a powerful and uncomfortable journey.